In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of media products? Our media product has countless amounts of the forms and conventions of real media products, although in some ways we develop them. However, I do not feel we challenge them at all. Film openings have many purposes for the audience, and one of these purposes is to engage the audience, and for them to be drawn into storyline, we are trying to provide for them. A film opening is also meant to raise enigmas and keep the audience on the edge of their seats, whether it be romantic and a comedy, or in our case, a horror. An example from our product, The Shadowing, we raise many enigmas for the audience. These include: who is this girl? What relationship do they have to each other? This draws the audience in and gets them to continue watching so they can get answers to their questions. Horror movies are the only genre of film that raise enigmas than the other genre films. This is due to the high level of tension and suspension throughout the film. So, obviously, it's just like with other films, you don't really need to question what's going on. Whereas horrors, you're meant to you need to kind of guess what's going on. We followed another convention in a way by doing our titling with certain font styles and the colour of them. We obviously stuck to the fact it was a horror, so we went with text that wasn't a normal text you would use. It had kind of like a bit of an eerie effect to it. Like, it didn't have like round edges or anything like that. It was like dragged down edges, and then it had like red in it, so obviously that's to do with the horror. So we used that convention, and we used that and then developed it how we wanted to. And the colour of it was obviously red, because what you most associate with horror films is text is red, because obviously red is blood, blood equals horror, and so on. However, we didn't challenge that, or we didn't use that as well, because the majority of films that we studied inside and outside of school was the titles usually appear on just black screens. We didn't do that. We created a few more that were a bit more interesting, or we just changed the background colours so it wasn't black. We made the title of our film larger for emphasis, which is done by many other horror films. We obviously included our film distribution company, which we made ourselves, and our production company. We didn't obviously challenge the conventions of titling at all, because we kept it quite simple, apart from obviously the ones that we had created ourselves. We developed the idea seen in many of other horror films, and about where they use pan shots commonly. We didn't do that. We obviously used tracking shots instead of pan shots, because we thought tracking shots were a bit more emphasised. Where else? Oh yeah, and like the location as well. We thought the location would help the camera movement, because obviously if we hadn't have chosen our location, our camera shots wouldn't have helped at all. Like, it just wouldn't have gone well. Whilst many horror films zoom in and out of location so the audience may focus on an object or person of interest, our film applied and developed this idea on focusing on a character. So that's where we had the close-up of her reaching for her keys in her pocket, or we had the kind of over-the-shoulder shot, which is almost like a close-up of that character. So we had that, and zooming out of them. Whereas, like, in the beginning, it showed a character, but not a lot. Like, the only thing that got shown at the very, very beginning was her walking with a flashlight. That's, like, not a lot, like, there. There's not a lot of the character being seen. This keeps it a little bit more kind of like mysterious and a bit on the down low. And yeah, and obviously it's just like and then it slowly unravels the character a bit more, and then the other character, which is the ghost character, it unravels them more to the audience and what their intentions and what they're doing. One conventional shot used typically throughout horror films is a close-up shot on objects or characters of interest. This was replicated in our film, but not of a face. I don't know whether that can still be classed as a close-up, but we obviously did a close-up of her reaching in her pocket for her keys. I mean, we didn't use lots of them. We used one, and then the rest were all mainly just locations, really, to be fair. We used some different camera angles. Obviously, with horror films, especially psychological and things like that, usually it's kind of like you have low angles and high angles. We kind of use that, but we used a low angle from when she was walking up the stairs. That was a low angle, but for the rest of it, we haven't exactly used loads. So it's not like we've used developed or challenged that sense in it, which is the camera angles. The selection of mise-en-scène, including colour, figure, props, lighting, objects, location and setting. The props that we used was a car, some towels to wrap round as a what's it called, as a dress for the ghost character. We used someone's set of car keys. We used a flashlight. And that's what we really used. We didn't use like a lot because we didn't want a lot to be in it, because if you overdo it, it's just going to ruin it. But obviously we didn't. It wasn't really meant to look massively modern. But the fact that she's got a car and car keys, I guess we can't really stick to the fact that it's not modern. The costumes that we used, we obviously wanted to keep the main character quite normal. We didn't want her to be, to look like she's meant to be something else when it's literally meant to be in her everyday life this happens. Whereas the ghost character, she is meant to be dressed in what she is, because obviously, she's not really meant to be there, but we can't exactly show someone that's invisible. So we kind of just stuck her in white because it's a bit of a stereotypical kind of ghost thing to do. So we did that. So we used that convention. And yeah, so it's just like, because where she's, it's kind of hard to say, like the fact that she's in a white cloak and then her hair is draped back so you can't see anything, it's almost like she's got the power and authority over the main other character. So it's just like, well, I'm sorry, but I'm in control of you right now because you are the only one who can see me. And that's kind of what we wanted to feel by doing that, so that, that the ghost character feels like she has a hold over the main character. So the main character is always vulnerable. She's literally alone on this. She has no one to turn to, and anyone that she turns to, they don't really believe her. So we wanted to go with that. We also did editing directions as well. Something commonly used in horror films are jump cuts. We didn't use a jump cut, to be completely honest. So we didn't really use challenge or develop that. And yeah, I mean, we didn't really use a lot. We kind of just, I don't know, to be fair. We obviously used a 360 tracking shot, but that obviously had no editing to it. Obviously only just the contrast and everything like that, but that it didn't really have any certain difference to it. Like, it didn't have a jump cut, a match cut, or reverse shot. It was just that that shot. Well, we definitely use sound techniques, which all horror films use. We didn't have any dialogue though, to be very surprised. We thought adding dialogue wasn't going to make the opening. We thought it was just going to not make it that interesting. So because we wanted to keep the audience questioning, we used the convention of horror films to have some non-diegetic sound play in the background and act as a sound bridge in the opening of our film. So we didn't want it to be quiet, and we didn't want to use something we recorded, so we used non-diegetic sound to do that. This set the atmosphere of our film and allowing our audience to guess the genre, as well as possibly getting some insight into the characters or location to be shown, or what even could possibly happen. And then obviously it's like we had the actors' positioning and movements. We had to think hard about this. We didn't know whether the main character was meant to be walking during the tracking shot, or if she was meant to be standing still. And then we also then thought about the ghost character. We didn't want her to just be sat there doing nothing, so we kind of we used this prop that we found where we were filming, and we were just like, do you know what, that would be perfect to use. So we used that, but then we didn't want her to just be sat on it, so we kind of thought, well, a stereotypical kind of horror thing, especially is like with a rocking chair, you know, you just see a rocking chair just going. So it's like we took the wheel and kind of made her rock on it, so it gave it a little bit of a eerie kind of look to it, but it kind of worked in a way. And we kind of just didn't want her standing there, because standing there would look a bit too boring. So just adding it added a little bit more spice to the to the frame. The movement of our characters wasn't formal at all, and like, I mean, it didn't give the audience a look into their life. All it did was show them that they're scared, that they have no idea what's going on, and their position wasn't very different to normal things, because obviously the only difference is we had the ghost character sat on a wheel thing, and then we then had her standing behind pillars when it was a 360 tracking shot. So I mean, I guess they're not like different, but they're actually, no, they are different compared to normal positions. But then with the main character, she wasn't really in certain positions. I mean, she was moving for the tracking shot, and then she was kind of like standing around, like going around in circles whilst doing the 360 tracking shot show. So it's like we kind of challenged that convention of a horror film, to be fair, because we didn't keep her in the same position, and we kind of, especially with the 360 tracking shot, we used something completely different to what I've seen before, especially as normally they might just get to stand there, but we got her to move around.